Pretty clear to all by now that the magma cannon is a little bit overtuned, but what about the Death Shrieker rocket? I've seen some people saying that it's mostly useless. I actually strongly disagree. I think that the anti-large shot is actually very useful, and hopefully the accuracy will get tuned in. Both the scatter shot is also effective, but of course this thing with its two different shooting modes, one of them has a +5 bonus, +500 rather, bonus versus large. Yeah, on the single shot rocket, right? Similar to like high elf, dark elf bolt thrower, has both scatter and single shot, and the single shot is quite effective at doing certain things. Today I'm up against Battlesy, who's definitely a very decent player. He's gonna give me a great run for my money here with Cathay, one of the strongest land battle factions. So let's get to the build as we approach. Got the Death Shrieker here. I'm gonna set it to anti-large and try and trade against the Grand Cannon. Initially, we've got Astro Chad leading the way, by far the best legendary lord for the Chaos Dwarfs, in that he's very cost-effective, counts as infantry size, and has 5,000 mass with amazing stats. 60-50, flaming magic damage, armor piercing, weapon strength, a little under 500, but still, we've also got a grip of laborers, 4 orcs, 4 goblin laborers, the blazing beards of Berserk, 2 infernal guards with fire glaives, demon smith with no spells, just with the heal, or the Death Shrieker in case it does get traded into by cannons. And then we've got some Wolf Riders here, Regiment of Renown, and regular Wolf Rider archers, and some other Wolf Riders, just melee hidden in the woods. Battlesy's Cathay's coming in hot with Miao Ying. Got the Green Guardian Terracotta Sentinel for some Ice Missile Reflect. It's actually pretty smart, this up-close Missile Reflect against Chaos Dwarfs. If you like YOLO them into blunderbusses, they'll absolutely destroy themselves, so I really like this pick, actually. We've got Miao Ying, front line of some Jade Warriors, lots of Peasant Archers, and some Gold Chevron, rank 9 Peasant Long Spears, with, of course, the cannon in the back. So let's get things rolling. I'm going to immediately start to open up with the Death Shrieker, and we'll kind of watch it as it shoots here. You can see it has an extremely high angle, so I could have even hidden it here over on this left side behind these woods so that the cannons wouldn't have as good a line of sight. Of course, Cathayan cannons generally do have, you know, they have a pretty good arc as well, unlike, say, Empire or regular dwarf cannons. So that shot there was a swing and a miss, unfortunately. But let's see, we'll kind of keep that in the background as the battle starts to play out. Miao Ying comes a little bit forward here into the range of the Infernal Guard. Fire Glaive's going to open up. A lot of people said they don't like the sound effects. I think the pew pew is pretty cool. The VFX certainly is pretty awesome, must be said. Miao Ying going to take some damage from that, but of course she has plenty of opportunity to heal herself. We're going to get the Laborers in combat here with the Jade Warriors, and throw some grenades here from the Blazing Beards into these Jade Warriors. So, obviously, I'm not expecting the Laborers to win out. Even if the Orc Laborers do some damage, that's great. But for the time being, we're just tying these guys down, beating up some of their vigor, of course, bunching up this one unit so that we can get some nice bombs. But Astrogoth now charging into the front line as well, and maneuvering with my light cavalry, trying to get after some of these archers here. We do close one Peasant Archer with these Hobgoblins. This other one, though, has been shot at and kind of beat up as it's wheeled around. I'm trying to get at this artillery, but Battlesy's hanging around with the Green Guardian, so I'm going to peel off, try and go up to the front line. Again, just keep cleaning up these archers. Also, a little bit of miss micro on me, leaving a lot of these light cavalry out here. These Wolf Rider archers, the Oglacon's boys especially. Is that what they are? Yeah, Oglacon's boys. They're quite good, but a nice... I don't know why I can't remember the name of the spell right now. The Talons of the Night? That's it, yep. They're going to do a lot of damage to those Infernal Guard, a lot of HP damage. They won't lose too many models. In fact, they don't lose any models there, but then a little bit of return fire from the Peasant Archers, and they'll start to drop a bit. We check in on the Death Shrieker versus Cannon. You can see that the Death Shrieker's already blown up 2 of the artillery pieces, and this is the thing. The Death Shrieker, I was inspired actually after watching a replay that Samurai Warrior and Great Book of Grudges had sent me that I am planning on showing you guys. It's a battle of Skaven versus Chaos Dwarfs, and in that battle, I think it was Samurai Warrior used the Death Shrieker rocket to very good effect to counter-snipe Skaven artillery, which kind of gave me the idea to try it against Cathay, which has a little bit smaller of artillery pieces, but still we've been able to trade effectively, shut down 3 of them so far. Once they're fully shut down, then of course I'll switch on to a more valuable target. But speaking of valuable targets, Miao Ying has been getting heavily punished by the fire glaives here and has taken some pretty serious damage. In fact, honestly, in hindsight, it'd probably be smarter for me to just hard switch onto her with the Death Shrieker while she's so low to try and finish her off, but Battlezy's going to transform there into human form to get her some nice healing, maybe a little regrowth there. Astrogoth duking it out with the Sentinel, using his foul, hot magics to make this fight significantly in his favor, not only increasing his own weapon strength through the Black Hammer and through, it was also self-buffing with a Cascading Fire Cloak, stacking these two for some extra armor piercing, and of course melee defense, proccing Kindle Flame. You saw the Ash Storm there to increase weakness to fire, so Astrogoth just punching very well up. The Green Guardian does have more HP than him, but given all of those kind of effects, you can definitely trade just fine in that engagement. But speaking of trading just fine, the Peasant Long Spears are actually doing a good job of kind of tying up this Infernal Guard. They're not able to fire very effectively. It looks like they are getting some volleys into some Peasants or whatever right now. Honestly, that's fine. But need to be careful not to overextend too far. Astrogoth, of course, doesn't have any form of healing, so I want to try and keep him back near the Infernal Guard where I can get some support, possibly draw the Green Guardian or Miao Ying into the firing line of the Fire Glaives. Oglakons and the rest of the Wolf Rider archers just being deployed to make sure we clean up whatever units we can. The archers in particular are definitely threatening to me just by their sheer volume. Blazing Beards have also just about met their match, but you can see how accurate the Death Shrieker is. It's able to consistently hit the Jolly Green Giant here, which is also just right on the edge of that Ash Storm. So going to be taking extra damage from the fire of the glaives, and the Death Shrieker also, of course, does fire damage. Pretty much everything, all the ranged units. In fact, I think literally, other than the throwing daggers of the sneaky gits, everything does fire damage. Definitely some awesome synergy there. Of course, if the Green Giant were to come attack me, I do have an anti-large AP bonus on these fire glaives. They would need to stop firing, of course, to not reflect their own bullets back in their face, but right now the numbers advantage definitely heavily in Cathay's favor. A lot of my stuff is, you know, just routing laborers all over the field. We've got a few of the Wolf Riders still operational. I'm going to try and sneak in here and mop up some archers if I can, but it's going to be tricky. This will go on for some time, as the Infernal Guard are going to be very tough for Cathay to kill in melee. They really don't have a lot of high attack units. Armor piercing is all tied up in their single entities, so they're just going to have to try and do it the old-fashioned way by sheer weight of numbers of peasants. Double column attack there, sandwiching the one unit that had already been struck down by Miao Ying. They're still fighting. Infernal Guard's leadership, stats overall, very good. Still got some ammunition left as well for the Death Shrieker, and I'm kind of waiting up. Battlesy's done a really good job of not blobbing up this whole time. For the most part, I haven't really felt like I've had any good opportunities to try and use the scatter shot, but in this late game here, as he kind of maneuvers all these peasants in to attack, I'm going to switch on my last few volleys. Don't have a lot of ammunition, as you saw there. On my last few volleys, I'm going to switch to the multi-shot and try and rain some death on this blob here to even things out, because this weight of numbers is very dangerous. Not necessarily, I mean, that's literally hundreds of peasants and Jade Warriors, everything else mixed together. So there's the scatter shot, lands even a couple of hits on that blob and does some fairly serious damage, but let's keep it close. The Infernal Guard, this tiny thin line of Infernal Guard holding off the hordes of Cathayan infantry. Green Giant's gonna waltz on in here. See a nice Cascading Fire Cloak. Love the new VFX on that spell. Going to be used on the Infernal Guards themselves. Try and keep them fighting. They terrify away, unfortunately, but up to 69 melee defense with that Cascading Fire Cloak. Just a nice little buff. One of the best buff spells. Probably my favorite buff spell if I had to pick a favorite buff spell. Oh yeah, the Infernal Engineer has also been, Demonsmith Sorcerer rather. He's been just shooting his little flammable shots in here in various blobs, trying to apply some extra weakness to fire. It's not terribly accurate, but any little extra bit of weakness to fire to help Astrogoth trade here. Another Ash Storm on the table just for that, and I mean, with the kit I've got with Astrogoth here, it's really just Ash Storm and Cascading Fire Cloak to spam these two as much as possible. Again, stack with Black Hammer, and then also get as much Kindle Flames and the Killing Fire as well. Certainly has been effective up to this point. Let's see if we can finish off the Green Giant here. You know, it's a desperate situation when the Death Shrieker is having to be used in melee. It's extremely slow. It's one of the slowest units in the game. But does have armor-piercing anti-infantry. And what is it? 18 attack, 18 bonus versus infantry. So 36 is enough to maybe get some hits against these peasants. Perhaps. So let's fast forward a little bit as this endgame does go on for some time. Battle's going to be cycle charging. Astrogoth trying to hold out as best he can. Just keeping his Winds of Magic mostly for Cascading Fire Cloaks. I figured the melee defense is probably one of the most important components at this point to try and help him survive into the late game. I also love this, that the Grand Cannon crew is just chasing off these Fire Glaives. Absolutely beautiful. This other unit of Fire Glaives, too, going to turn around, start shooting. The, 9 of them that remain will start shooting those Jade Warriors in the back. So, yeah, as I said, this goes on for some time. Astrogoth, 50 melee defense, and the fact he doesn't count as large means the Peasant Long Spears aren't going to be making really consistent contact with him, but in a surround, single entities like this will always take at least some amount of damage, and he is taking some damage, certainly. Battlesy makes a little bit of an error here, transforms, thinking he has enough Winds of Magic left for maybe another Earthblood to self-cast on Miao Ying. I don't know, even if he had stayed in Dragon form there, the HP it's low enough. Not 100% guaranteed he might have won. I mean, it's a range of probabilities, right? And given how close this game actually is, I think, different probabilities either way could have changed the outcome of the battle. But as it is right now, this horde of Cathayan troops that remain, these tattered souls, if you will, continue to try and fight here, but Astrogoth, just the absolute Chad here that he is. Buff up his melee defense once again with another Cascading Fire Cloak. Is that the Kindle Flame? I guess that's the... yeah, anyway. And there it is. Miao Ying's going to flee the field, and it will be a victory for the Chaos Dwarfs. A very close one at that. It's definitely very interesting, and I do think this will be a pretty fun and dynamic matchup, just because there's some different ways both players can go. But I'm pretty happy with how the Death Shriek did, honestly. It was able to take out the cannon, and then even still have plenty of ammo left to contribute lots of value against the big Green Guardian there. Of course, Astrochad, 200 kills, over 2,000 damage value, almost 20,000 damage dealt, almost real close to some beautiful symmetry there, but still excellent performance. The Infernal Guards also, I mean, one of them doesn't pay for themselves, one of them doubles its value, more than doubles its value. Definitely a risk-reward unit that if they can be effective, if they're not shot too much, they're going to be very good. If they do get shot to pieces, or in this case, overwhelmed by massive numbers and hit by AoE magic, those are also viable ways of dealing with them. They can fall apart pretty quickly, which is a little bit tough because they're pretty expensive. I may not fall apart quickly, but you know what I mean. Not necessarily pay for themselves, but Blazing Beers also got pretty close. Despite my miss micro on the Wolf Riders initially, they also managed to get some pretty good value back going after the Archers of Cathay, who themselves, in many cases, were also pretty cost-effective, honestly. One of them, 1484. Yeah, taking some late-game shots, I think, and finishing off the Death Shrieker there. Definitely got some really nice value. Peasant Long Spears rank 9 are not crazy expensive, but most of them don't end up paying for themselves. Not that you would necessarily expect them to. But Cathay's lack of armor-piercing anti-infantry could be an issue in this matchup. Oh, I think because Chaos Dwarfs may not necessarily go with a lot of armored infantry here, it might not be. We'll see. I mean, certainly in this case, I only had really 3 armored infantry units, right? So certainly an interesting matchup. Big thanks to Battlesy for playing that one with me. I finally have been able to get a few of my own battles, so I'll hope to show those over the next few days, including some others that I got from other people. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.